Thank you, Darla, and thank you, Toastmasters. It is an honor to be here. I really do appreciate the time and the opportunity just to talk about this important subject. And as Darla mentioned, I like to get started with a little bit of interaction. So read over these quotes and if you would, chat the number that resonates with you the most. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, it's a lot of fun to think about the stress itself. Personally, I am not a Monday person. I it just Mondays are just not my day of the week, Monday mornings. And but I often feel like, if I could burn stress through calories, it would be awesome. And I would be definitely thinner. And the stress is it seems like to me it's a constant thing. It seems like it's always there underneath something. And so thank you for all those comments there and then your registrations with which ones that you resonate with. Well, today we'll be talking about a few things. One, we're looking at some of the impacts of stress itself. And we're getting some new research with some scientific insights that actually will be very applicable to Toastmasters. We'll look at some short-term relief and some long-term relief options. And so kind of thinking about what can you do? So let's jump right in. So as we look at stress itself, I was very curious to find out what was the definition of stress. And as we look at this, stress is a normal reaction the body has when change occurs. From the Cleveland Clinic, when change occurs. Oh my gosh, when change occurs, change is always occurring. So I'm always stressed. No wonder now it starts to really make sense. And this idea that how it represents itself, it comes out in so many different ways. And so those are some of the things we'll begin to dive into today and kind of peel back. I'm going to give you the secret in advance is this. What is your activating agent? What is it that triggers you? What is it that begins to start that stress feeling? And so as we go through this, begin to ponder that, begin to think through what is it are my triggers? What is it that causes me stress? Now there's positive stress. Some projects that we're on, we get a promotion, a new house, a new child. Those are the things that are positive in our life. There's still stress, but it represents itself in a very different way. Now, with this is a curve from the American Red Cross. And you can see there's this is a stress and human function curve. And there's a positive aspect of stress, definitely healthy up to a point. Then at that point, it begins to become exhaustive. And I'm sure that we have been in and out of all areas of this curve so many different times in our lives. As we look at negative stress is when the body responds and cortisol is released. A hormone is released into our system. Now, this interrupts our neurotransmitters. And that's really, I think about our neural pathways. Think about major highways where neurons are running down very fast, and all of a sudden cortisol hits. It's designed to do that. It impedes our focus and concentration. It's necessary because without it, we would have so many different issues. Now, with it, we have so many different effects. As it stays in our system, we got immune system issues, heart disease, blood pressure, high blood sugar. All of these things are a result of stress, which is related to cortisol, the physical response of that. So, well, it's really bad. Well, it actually can be pretty good. We're wired for urgency. How our brains are wired, the fight or flight has kept us alive. Now, as we look at how we are wired and then how cortisol hits our brain, it designs to mess up our relaxation a little bit, send us into a point of urgency. Blood sugar, the cortisol hits our blood sugar in our system. And that gives us that energy, that boost. That's great when we need it. But the longer it stays, the longer the impact is. Now, I want to look at some scientific insights. Now, this is some research that when Darla and I had done the presentation before, I wasn't aware of this study. And one of my strengths is I love to learn, and I'm always absorbing. And so I want to share this back with you now. So these are two key questions. And I want you in the chat box to answer both of these questions. During the past year, what would you say have you experienced? Have you experienced a lot of stress? Number 4, a little stress. How much of an effect has it had on your health? A lot? None. Answer both of them at the same time, like a 4, 4. So begin to see what your stress level is and how you think it's affected your health. Those are pretty high numbers already. Moderate, some, a lot, little, hardly any, 1s, 2s, yes. So we're seeing some things more on that upper side. Definitely on the 2s and up seems to be most common. See a pattern. That's right. Yeah, right. I think it is. I wonder why. So hold this in the back of your mind. So in general, you have a higher stress and you have a perception that how it impacts your health. So keep those in mind. Now, there was a study done with the University of Wisconsin-Madison. They asked those 2 questions to 30,000 people, and they tracked them over 8 years. Now, they used public data to find out who may have passed away during that time. So they were actually tracking the relationship of deaths to those 2 factors. I'll give you some bad news first. Those with a lot of stress had 43% increased risk of dying. 43%. But this, only true for those who believed it was harmful for your health. Your 1s, your 2s. That belief of your health. So it's a fascinating aspect is we begin to say, how is that brain processing that information? Now, across that 8-year period, they estimated that there were over 182,000 premature deaths, not because of the stress itself, but because the belief that stress is bad. I'll repeat that. The belief that stress is bad is what actually caused them to die prematurely. The power of the mind. If we could impact that somehow, if we could somehow change that pattern. So can we change how we think? And can that make us healthier along the way? Can we really begin to reprogram our mind around stress? So here's a social test. Now, this is a real test conducted by Harvard, and you may find it a little familiar. Well, so they bring a group that's going to be taking this social stress test into a lab. And what they do is they give them, so you're going to give a 5-minute impromptu speech on your personal weaknesses. And then they have to give it to a panel of experts. Now, we've got lights and cameras, everything is going on to really kind of create that pressure and to add to it. Those evaluators have been trained to give very discouraging, nonverbal feedback. Oh, and all this is responding back to that individual. That individual's seeing all this information. And so they're measuring how they respond to this and how they, in their results and how they produce that speech. So these are the results of that. They divided the participants up in 3 groups. So kind of a preset to influence their response patterns. One group would say, go play some video games, relax before you do your speech. The second group says, ignore it altogether, just it's not there, just say it's going to go away. The third group, however, they sit with them and say, let's rethink your stress response. Let's look at all these things and how they begin to interact and what we can do about them. Here's what's really cool. When they talked about them, that pounding heart, that feeling of anxiety that you feel, don't worry about that. It's about you're being prepared for action. Notice the shift to the positive. That breathing faster, that's just pushing more oxygen to your brain so you can think clearer. Powerful. You feel that blood pressure, that blood flowing? That's pulling that oxygen nutrients to your muscles to get you ready. The positive reinforcement as they begin to talk through those things, they give their speeches. This third group, better speeches, rated more confident, smiled more positive body language. And this is really interesting, that their physical responses were not impacted. Usually when you're in a state of anxiety, your heart is pounding, your blood vessels begin to constrict. Not this group, as they were looking at how they operated. And so they were able, in a very short amount of time, under stress, to create new neural pathways and have those neurons begin to flow in a different direction, in a positive direction, that it influenced the outcome, again, in a very short time. Anybody can use that, maybe? Think about how we work with others as they begin to talk, as begin to do speeches initially, that fear that's there. How can we overcome that? Through some positive reinforcements, doing things like that was done in this study. Now, that power of the mind is the perception, is that belief. That belief is what drives our response. Now, there is a lot of research around cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm going to talk about one model. It's an ABC model. We're going to kind of walk through the steps and then we'll walk through some examples. So first, what is that activating event? What is that thing that's going to trigger that stress? For example, the boss asks you to present at an important meeting with your teammate, Bill. Now, what is your belief in this process internally? You may feel that stress rise up. Oh no, wait, what if I mess up? There's more important people there. And it begins to come out, it begins to rise. Now, Bill, on the other hand, Bill, he's been to Toastmasters. He's like, this is great. This is wonderful. I can't been waiting for this to happen. Now, that belief is working through his mind. The C part, the consequences, those results of that. You may be feeling nervous and stressed. You may even be angry. Why did you put me in this situation? Bill, excited. He is glad to be there. Been waiting. So that ABC behavior, how our perceptions influence our responses. Now, to change that position for you, to change the situations that you're exposed to, being aware of what your triggers are, being aware when you're around them, being aware when they happen, how you respond, what your stress level is around that particular trigger. We want to look at how we change our view of the world differently. How can we use those positive phrases, positive mindsets? What actions can we take to begin to change our thought patterns and even our behavior? And applying techniques. And as we look at this, how we're going to manage that stress in our bodies, relax our bodies, and we're going to look at that from a short and a long-term fashion. So let's go back to that A, that activating event. So you may not be totally aware of things that trigger you. There's some tools called like a stress diary that across a week or 2 weeks, you begin to document events, something that was a stressful experience for you. Then you get a relative perspective of time, how you feel now, how you feel happy that, what is your current mood? Where are you now? And so it begins to build perspective as you begin to reflect back. How stressed do you feel now? Begin to measure that piece over time. Your physical symptoms. Did you have any physical symptoms? Well, I felt sweaty. I got hot. I felt flushed. And how did you handle it? What did you do in the moment? If we look at how we respond and how our historical mindset really kicks in, that fight or flight that want to release quickly, it's pause, clarify, and decide. PCD for short. Some talk about to get our executive mind functions to kick in and a prefrontal cortex, sometimes to give decisions up to 6 seconds. Now, for those of you that have a high driver behavior, that will seem like an eternity. For those of you who like to go into detail, that's not enough time. So our personality begins to drive how we feel, how we respond. And so a stress diary helps you kind of get this in mind, what your stresses are. Now you go, I don't want to do all that. Okay. A shortcut, ask someone who knows you well how you react under stress. Make sure that you let them know that you want honest feedback and be open to it. Hear what they have to say. And then you may go, yeah, I do that. I know. Be careful not to say you don't. Just be open. Take it all in. Take it all in. The stress diary is also a great tool to begin to build that self-awareness. What about your beliefs? Our perceptions around that. There's some powerful tools as we look at how we begin to think. I want you to look at these and begin to ponder on which one that you kind of connect with. This idea of negative thought. Our mind immediately goes to the negative. That is a natural response of how we think. Some of us label. We call it stupid, stupid, stupid. Why did I do that? Some of us jump to conclusions. We make assumptions that things are going to happen. How well are we actually predicting the future? Are you really a fortune teller? What about that emotional reasoning side that allows your feelings to determine your thoughts and your thinking and all that feeling uneasy, and you're really working through that processing? Should statements. Well, do you have all these rules and I should have done this, reflect, I should have done that. This is mine. I should have done a lot. I am always looking back and I'm trying to tweak that. How can I get better at this? Or this all or nothing thinking. These are the extremes. Do you fall into those as well? Well, that's personalization. That makes you kind of blame yourself for others. Projection out. Now, these are categories of negative thought. David Burns began to group these categories for us and to begin to look at patterns in behavioral health and how those things begin to work. I was taking a course on neuroscience, and one of the most painful but powerful things that they made us do was to create a journal around certain key thoughts. And they began to catalog those thoughts. What was our type of thinking that we had? And what was that truth that was really there? In my should statements, were those really real? Or they were just in my head? And I had to stop and process those daily. And I would constantly be throwing things up, and I realized I had this pattern of shoulds. It just kept coming out. I should, but it wasn't ever real. And I kind of really sit back, and it began to help me reflect of those were some of my triggers, and my self-perceptions were the one creating more stress in me. So of the ones we've talked about, I want you to chat. Which one of these do you think that you do most often? Put that in the chat box. Yes, we'll be sharing this out. Nice. Labeling shoulds. Brenda, yeah, Brenda's right. Fantastic. And so we see patterns begin to result in our actions and our thoughts. To kind of keep those in the back of your mind, what are those things that really get in your way? What are some of those negative thoughts that get in your way? It's back to our beliefs. Now to the consequences themselves. Well, let's look at two aspects of it, short and long. So does anybody want an immediate stress? Would that be nice just to like click the button and go, I feel better? Well, I'm going to go through a few of those for you. The first one you're really going to like. Dark chocolate. Great. That's right. It's scientifically proven. All of these have science based behind them. Now, I love this, that stress is dessert spelled backwards. Love it. So now, personally, I love these little keto blocks. You put a big block of chocolate in front of me, I'm going to have a hard time eating it. Just a little bit of it. You're not supposed to eat like 1.5 ounces a day. These are about 0.5 ounces a piece. So I can get away with these little things. And they're keto friendly. So dark chocolate, a quick pick me up. And just healthy for you if you don't overdo it. This is what I found interesting, that chewing gum vigorously, they were looking at tests of how sounds were causing people to respond in stress. And they noticed that when someone was chewing gum, it actually began to lessen that. Their stress was less than it was in a normal fashion. And the more they tested, they said, it seems to be about a 10-minute fashion if someone's chewing gum fairly rapidly. I don't know if I could chew gum for 10 minutes solid very vigorously, but the concept of I can distract my brain is really what the action is here. I am distracting my brain and keeping it busy by simply just chewing gum. Changing the neural pathways, interfering with what's going on with some of that stress. And here's some quick mood boosters. This is fun. Smiling. Amy Cuddy has a lot of research around the physical aspects of positivity and happiness, and how smiling, even when you don't feel like it, catches on. You know, people in a call center, they're trained to smile as they're talking into the phone. People can hear you smile. Go to run to get some gum. I love you folks. They're awesome. And putting your hand on your heart, feeling your own heartbeat. If you feel that stress and you feel your heart pounding, recognize it. Control of it. When someone else is out there, it's okay to touch them as well, if they approve of it. And their heart, comfort, touch is amazing comforting aspect. Posture. How you sit up in your seat makes a difference in your mood, not only your body, but how you feel. So these are very quick ways to begin to overcome. Now, listening to smooth music actually begins to modify the brain waves into a declining set. And so after a period of time, that's when we begin to relax more. So I listen to all kinds of music because I let that music influence my mood. But I'm curious, what kind of music do y'all listen to? What kind of music is soothing to you? Country music, Christian jazz, top 40, 80s, definitely, 50s and 60s. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And so these are ways that we find things that help to reduce our stress. A lot, again, research around this. These are things that begin to influence us. And be aware of the rhythm itself can elevate or help decline your brain waves as you're wanting to find a point of relaxation. There's a difference of relaxation and distraction. So process that as you're working through what is it that works for you. Now, another aspect of the research is spending time with animals is very powerful, very relaxing. Reduces the blood pressure, reduces the heart rate. I don't have any pets. They've even correlated that back to watching online videos. There's a 3-hour HD aquarium on YouTube. These are things that really begin to connect with people at a different level. Now, true story. So doing all this research and things, I was like, I wonder how much sounds would influence my dog. We had an older dog and she was like getting stressed out, all the photos. And so I was like, let's see what Amazon Music has. And sure enough, Amazon Music had Calm My Dog. I said, okay, we're going to play Calm My Dog on repeat. And I'm like petting her. The music's going and I'm just relaxed. I fall asleep on the dog bed with the dog. My wife had to come down and say, Scott, everything okay? And I'm like, what? And just so relaxed. It worked for me too. So it is great. Absolutely great. Laughter is a wonderful medicine. Absolutely. Back to some other deeper research. This just came out last September, that focused breathing can significantly reduce stress. Look at this. 2 recently published studies that several different techniques were found in breathing exercise. We're going to talk about 2. And they had both effective and immediate and long-term reduction of stress. Now, in this particular instance, they said it was over mindfulness and emotional awareness development. I'm a strong advocate for both of those. I don't go into detail in this particular presentation around meditation and mindfulness, but they are very powerful techniques. I want to focus on breathing just for a few minutes. There's one technique called a 4-7-8 breathing. It is a count methodology. Think about it like this, that when you're feeling stressed, the natural response is, That's kind of a quick in, slower out. So what this method does is begin to look and focus on your breathing, distracting your mind, at the same time bringing oxygen into your system. So I'm going to talk to the technique and we're going to try it together. So we let all the air out of our lungs. And then you're going to inhale very quickly on that count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll inhale. And then you hold your breath for a count of 7. You want to exhale and let it and hear it out. You want to hear it through your lungs for a count of 8. Now, the research says do that 4 times. I was working with one clinic. They was looking at different meditation and yoga practice and physiological responses. And they added swallowing in between breathing sets. And they said it was more like a reboot of your body when you're focusing on breathing and then you focus on swallowing. It switches the mind and it does kind of reset. And then as you bring your breathing back, it allows you to even focus more. So I'm going to lead you through this and let's try it together. When do you inhale? Wait for it. Okay. Here we go. All right. Everybody breathe out, blow it all out. Breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Blow out loud. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Take a deep breath, let it go. Relax a little bit. Let's do it again. Close your eyes. Listen to my voice. Blow it all out. Inhale through your nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Blow out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Blow out. Now swallow. We're going to do it 2 more times. Relax your shoulders a little bit. Really get into it now. Keep your eyes closed. Blow all the way out. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Blow it all out. Relax. Keeping a good deep breath in there. All right. Last one. Blow it all out. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Blow out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Relax. Dizzy. Just feel it for a second. Just let your shoulders hang. You can invoke this technique at any time. Let it refocus. Doing lots of breathing. It is essential. It is. So breathing is a powerful, powerful technique that you own. And you can pull out of your toolkit and apply it whenever you want, whenever you need it. I'm going to do one other one. This does not have to do with breathing, so we can kind of relax that for a minute. All right. Now, this is a progressive muscular relaxation. It begins to work your body. All right. Now, I'm going to walk through. We're going to read kind of what it says, and then we're going to do it together. So we're going to raise our eyebrows, big as we can. Now, notice this on the side. We're going to hold it for 5 seconds. Each one of these steps, we're going to hold for 5 seconds. So we're going to work our way down. We're going to close our eyes tightly. We're going to open our mouth wide as we can. We're going to hold our arms out in front of you, and we're going to clench our fists. Pull your shoulder muscles up toward your ears. We're going to hold that up. We're going to bend your arms at your biceps as tightly as possible. Hold it. Now, if you're sitting, we won't do that together now. We'll just talk about it. You'll be pulling your legs up. Now, what we will do here is we're going to tighten your ab muscles. We're going to hold that for 5 seconds. And then last, we're going to curl our toes. All right, so let's do this together. Here we go. Raise your eyebrows up high, high as you can, 5 seconds, 2, 3, 4, 5. Close your eyes as tightly as you can, 2, 3, 4, 5. Open your mouth as wide as possible, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your arms out in front of you and clench your fist, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull your shoulder muscles up to your ears. Hold it. 2, 3, 4, 5. Give me some biceps. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not going to sit. Tighten those ab muscles. Tighten them down. 2, 3, 4, 5. And last, curl those toes. Curl those toes. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just relax your whole body now. Just let it relax. Part of that is the physiological aspects. We begin to focus on something, therefore distracting our mind, much like the chewing gum, allowing our mind to get off the stress that we were all caught up in our heads. Keep yawning. Okay. So, true story. And the best stories start with, so there I was. All right. So there I was, driving down the highway. Now, I'm always listening to audiobooks, always trying to shove something into my head. And I learned about this 4-7-8 technique, right? Well, I said, they're talking about how do it before you go to bed, do it for this and help relax, blah, blah, research, yada, yada, yada. Right. So I started doing the 4-7-8. It works all right. I keep doing it. Next thing you know, I'm driving down there. I can barely keep my eyes open. I'm yawning. Oh my gosh. Don't. So whatever you do, do not do the 4-7-8 when you're driving. Whatever you do, don't do it. Don't do it. All right. Great techniques as we begin to look at physiologically controlling stress in our bodies. Now, power naps. It may not be possible. If it is possible, it is a powerful technique to begin to rejuvenate your body. There's a lot of research been done around sleep, and the target zone is between 10 and 20 minutes. Beyond that, you begin to get into a groggy zone. So some of the research was done with Navy pilots. Others was done with taking some folks and looking and dropping these guys in the desert, and they've got to run 10 miles in. Now, they do that in the middle of the night. How do they maximize their body and their energy? Due to a lot of study, they've decided it's between, their group said 12 and 20, no more than 20, because of the natural body rhythms that you have. And when you begin to go down and you come up if you go down to stay down too long, it's going to be too hard to come up. That's why if you break up and you get up really groggy, you're out of your natural body rhythms. Power naps. All right. So definitely a great technique. And you can master them. You can get to where you can just drop. Some great techniques. Yes, a technique. It is. Now, so I'm just curious, chat, how many hours on average do you sleep a night? On average. Let's say in a week's time, what do you say your average is? 7, 8, 5. These are great. These are some good numbers. Now 7. So here's some interesting research around sleep, and we're going to look at the long-term relief impacts. To drink a cup of coffee before power. So there is, topic was, do I drink a cup of coffee right before power nap? There is some research around drinking some caffeine before power nap. Basically begins to insert itself into your bloodstream at the same time that you're running your natural body rhythms and you actually come up. So there's research to support that. So you want less stress, you want a higher job performance, it's between 7 to 8 hours a night is what the research says. The first time I saw this, I was like, there's no way. I've got too much to do. My body doesn't work that way. I can't do that. And as I'm working through a neuroscience course, the hard part is that we began to look at sleep in a very powerful way. Waking and stumbling to the bathroom. Choo, running into the wall. Yes, and tea. Caffeinated tea does work too. So here's some evidence for you. NBA performance more than 8 hours sleep versus less than 8 hours sleep. Now, this is more than just LeBron's data. Look at the impact at the break point of 8 hours. 12% increase in minutes played, 29% in points, 2% in 3-point averages, 9% increase in free throw percentages. With that variable of sleep. Without it, more turnovers, more fouls. So it just happens to be that LeBron, he will shut down and he looks for 12 hours of sleep, particularly before a game. They are national champions this past year. Now, you say, well, I'm not an NBA player. Okay, well, maybe this will get a little closer to home. This is sleep loss and car crashes relative to the number of hours of sleep on the left-hand side. And the less sleep you get, the higher the increase to car crashes. It does affect us. It affects how we think. It affects our body. It affects how we can respond faster. Not something to ignore. There's even an app. There are a lot of apps out there. I use this particular one. It uses just the phone itself. You put the phone on the bed and you can start it and it begins to measure your sleep cycles. You see on the right that those are your natural sleep cycles. And you can begin to see how your sleep is affected over time and what things influence your sleep. There's even research around things that occurred 12 hours ago show up in your sleep and begin to affect your sleep rhythms. So powerful data, tools out there. You can set goals, things like that. It's one. Less sleep reported. I've been saying the same effects drinking and driving at times. Huh? Good. We've heard this one a lot. Exercise regularly. It is true. The research is sound around it. Some say it's 30 to 40 minutes a day. Some say it's 15 minutes a day. Whatever those minutes are, based upon whatever research report you read, the key is regular. A few times a week. Movement. Essential. Fitbit has an app as well. It does. Here's one man I thought of. What if you improve your skills, your technical skills? How about have you do a little bit of work in Outlook or Gmail? I'm curious. Chat in, how many emails do you send and receive in a day? On average, how many emails do you send and receive in a day? Espresso. 100 plus, too many, 50 to 70, 5 to 10. 100. Yeah. So if we want to influence those things that hit us, this is some interesting data when we look at it from an annual basis. Let's just say we're going to look at 80. If you send and receive an average of 80 emails a day, that's 19,200 a year, 80 days spent just doing email. If we could cut that by 20%, that's 16 days saved. That is one heck of a vacation or time to reduce your stress and get more done. Just by learning new tools. Do you use rules? There's some other really cool things in Outlook. So highly recommend taking an Outlook class or Gmail class on how you can become more efficient in using your technology. Rule your technology. Don't let it rule you. Now, I want to open up for questions, and we can talk about anything you wish. And the microphone is it is a blue, and it's the Love It. How to cut emails 20%. Really, there's learning more around that, the rules, different tools that are already built into Outlook in particular, but others as well.
I have a question. Have you ever heard that it helps you if you take the stance of a superhero?
Yes.
I saw that somewhere, and so I'm thinking before you do a speech, maybe you should stand on the stage like a superhero.
So Amy Cuddy, that is her research around the physical response. And it is that how the physiological response of the power stance, Superwoman, Superman stance, can influence you and your body and your mind. True story. So there I was, getting ready to do a job interview. And I was anxious about it. And so I mean, how can I'm in this building and nobody knows me. And so I'm be going around doing a power stance. Well, so I go in the restroom. I'm behind the little thing in the door and I'm doing the power stance. And there's another one. You do this, you got the arms up in the air. Well, by the time I put my arms up in the air, somebody walks in. But I got the job. And it does make a difference in and how it begins to impact you. So physiological deafness response. Others. And these are definitely not all the techniques, there are many more. Post a note to yourself, you'll see where your mind, yes. Notes are great. There's also self-promises. How do you navigate across gentle divides in a communication preferences? Carlos, tell me some more. I don't quite understand that question. And as that's coming through, Joanne, I love to read and look up stuff. And so my first query was around science and stress. And I started from there. And I just dug.
So Scott, this is Carlos.
Mm-hmm.
My question is because I work with a lot of younger people and they love to direct message versus emails or text messaging. It drives me nuts because I feel like they make comments just like okay and smiley faces, emojis, versus actually making themselves fully understood. But in their understanding and their way of communication preferences, what they communicate makes perfect sense to them,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily to me. And I just think it's a lot of wasted space and time just reacting as opposed to actually saying anything concrete. That's my perspective. From their perspective, they're making themselves clear, and it's just frustrating.
Agreed. And so some of the research is around how just using instant messaging and the ability to communicate even at the dinner table and work relationships has diminished, particularly since around 2009. So if you think about that ability to communicate and how to have that two-way conversation, becomes more difficult because one, you can't text it, or it's in bites, and those quick responses do not replace meaning and feeling. They're just at the top level. They're not deep. Training on emerging communication styles, yes. There are definitely whole communication courses and definitely pieces around how to communicate cross-generational as well. But that is definitely an issue. Thank you, Carlos. I think I've got about 1 more minute left. Just because I send a message doesn't mean you received it. That is for sure. How many times have you sent something and you thought you knew exactly what you were saying? Thank you, Roxanne. I shall check that out. Well, I thank everyone. It has been an honor. I've enjoyed getting to know you a little bit through our chats, through conversations, and we'll definitely be sharing this information out with you. And due to the interest, I might just kind of consolidate it down a little bit into a worksheet or something.
Thank you, Scott. I think everybody enjoyed your talk today. It was interactive as promised, and you got a lot of interesting comments, which I knew you would. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us today.
Thank you, Darla. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
You too. Someone just said they